couple of days ago, I had an interview with a dear friend of mine, and we talked about the impact of moving abroad on personal development. Now, while you could possibly travel and not learn anything, traveling in of itself does not make you interesting and does not help you grow unless you actually know how to use it for your own benefit. And that's exactly what I talked about with her. And so I thought, instead of just keeping it in my pile of recordings, why should I not share it with you so that you can listen to the raw advice that I told her, and hopefully you can use it for yourself.
What motivated you, Eduardo, to move on to a foreign country? And where were your expectations before you arrived to those countries?
So let me start off with the simplest and the first story, which is Japan. Um, at the time, honestly, I only had an idea, a really fair or rough idea of looking at people going overseas, maybe for an exchange program. The time I was in high school, and so I used to just hear everybody say, "I'm going to Canada for a year. I'm going to France for a year. I'm going to Germany for a year." And for me, it was like, I want to do that, but I really didn't have any context in regards to, let's say, Japan specifically. I just knew that I kind of wanted to go somewhere and then just get to see a new place. And so for many reasons, there was, I guess it was just how it was meant to be. But for a couple of reasons, there was Japan, the program that I was looking at, which was a relative recommended me this program, and I was like, okay, so what are the options? And they said, well, it's either Japan or US, and I was like, well, US sounds kind of dumb, like it's right next door. I could go anytime. I've been to US many times. I speak English, and I think if I go to Japan, it'll be a really interesting story. Like it seems so far away from what we know. At least personally at the time, I had like no idea about anything except probably sushi, or I could just say arigato or whatever. But uh, just the fact that it seemed like a complete unknown thing to me obviously created some fear within, but that was also the drive, which was like, man, like the more different or the weirder, the better, right? Like for me, that was
Yeah.
it. And so honestly, the moment I faced myself with like, is it US or Japan? I was like, "Oh, Japan, obviously." Like I didn't even think about it. That's one of the most interesting things about it. I was not like, oh, Japan, this, Japan, that. I was like, Japan, let's do it. And then I started thinking like, oh man, like I think I just chose Japan. And at the time, talking about personal development in the long term, because I see it really different today, compared to 2010, which was 13 years ago at the time that I left to Japan. And so I think the originally what motivated me for me was just the fact that I could learn about a new culture, that I could probably, because I didn't even really know if I could. I was like, maybe I can learn some Japanese and maybe I'll get something positive out of it. That was literally it, at least,
Mm.
at that time.
Okay, so your
Yeah.
expectations were more about exploring and learning the language, right? If I understand clear.
Yeah, I think it is really just about thinking. I feel some kind of, you feel some curiosity towards a certain place, but here's the funny part: you don't know what you don't know, right? And so
Hmm.
at the time when it's my first ever experience really living in a country, because I traveled to a few other countries, and maybe I stayed a couple of months in the US for personal reasons, but that was the real first time that I stayed for a whole year, without my family, without the people that I normally know. And so I say you don't know what you don't know, because I was like, I just feel like I'm drawn to this idea and I just want to try it out. But I had no clue what I was going to expect. And so therefore, I was open in many ways, open to whatever happened. And it's really, really cliche. I know it's a typical thing, but even within the program that I went to, they had this phrase where they say "kokoro hiraite," which is "open your heart" in Japanese. And from day one, I was literally like "kokoro hiraite, kokoro hiraite, kokoro hiraite." And the last day that I left Japan, I made a video about like my entire experience in Japan. And the last phrase that I added in the video was "kokoro hiraite." And then, like it kind of clicked to me, and I was like, man, like it really is all about how you approach how open you are when you come to the place, and that changes a lot about your experience. Because I've met people that maybe were there for a year, 2 years, 7 years, and they say all the possibilities and all the positives that they at least got at that time from the country were nowhere near to the things that I knew that I got from the country. So I think it's about the approach mostly.
Okay, yeah. I really like your Kokoro Hiraite mindset. I agree on that. Yeah. And may I ask, which was the country you stayed the longest from all the countries you have been abroad?
Um, it's probably China. It's I never really counted the exact date, let's say, but for me, Japan was 1 year. Then I came back to Mexico, and I finished my high school. I finished my studies, and then I was like, I want to study abroad, and so that led to me studying. It was about 2 years in Malaysia. I think it was 2 years and maybe like almost 2 years. Then half a year in the UK, and then 1.5 years in China. But then after I graduated, I stayed for probably almost an extra year. So actually more than 2 years. I think it's like 2 and 3 months or 2 or something months. So I think yeah, China is the one where I stayed the longest.
And did you have expectations before going to China?
Yeah, let me tell you, it's a little funny. I'm gonna be transparent here, but me coming from a background where I've spent time in Japan, where there's two elements to it. Obviously, one is like just spending time in Japan, where you have a contrast between Japan and China, and it's a common comparison, that people go through. But then the other side is also the fact that Japan for me was like my first love, so to speak. It was like my first ever experience abroad, where I kind of discovered that there was like way more than I thought in my own country. And so there's like definitely a biased opinion, about it. And that led me to when I started studying the university. This actual uni where I studied has three campuses, and so it's like the China campus, Malaysia campus, and the UK campus. And so I was like, UK, like I speak English. I really don't. I don't. I have no interest in that. China, like I don't know. I don't know. I think I like Japan better. I was like, even after that, I was like, man, like I don't know. I don't feel so attracted to it, But a lot of it is just about feeling, which it's okay to have a feeling about it, but I don't. There's a really thin line between like I feel like this is that way, and then you kind of almost absolutize an idea just because you think about it doesn't mean that the country really is that way. And funny enough, when I was in Malaysia, I started studying Mandarin, so I started learning language and everything, and that just like step by step led me to say, you know what, like honestly, come on, I'm already in this uni. I could really easily just have an exchange program, like really just try it out. But again, you don't know what you don't know, and so I'm going to stop basing myself on what I think without even really having context because I've never been, so I can't tell, and so I might as well just go try it for myself and then see what it is, right? And then when you're opening that, honestly, I think every single time that I've had such an opportunity is because I say, you know what, I'm not going to overthink it, and I'm not going to base myself on like my own judgment because I'm like, oh, this country is this thing or this country is this thing, right? And obviously, there's by the end, maybe you try out, you go to a country, you're like, this was better than I expected, or the other side, like, yeah, it was like worse than I expected. Either way, I think the outcome really is irrelevant because the point is not is the country good or not. Any country has good things. Any country has a bad, but like every single country has positives and negatives. The point is how does that adapt to you, to your own being, like to your own life plan, and I call it a global life plan. Like depending on what you want, is that country a suitable place for you? And so that's a little bit of how I do it. But it's even now actually, like 10 days ago, 12 days ago, I came back from Curacao, which is an island next to Venezuela, Caribbean, but is technically part of Netherlands. And I was like, man, it looks like just any other island. I've been to islands in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, like I don't really feel attracted to it. But you know, I was like, I have a friend there. Like, it seems expensive, but you know what? Like, I'm still gonna go there. I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna see what there is. And so after all, you know, again, even if the outcome is positive and you say, ah, such a nice place, or you like, I'll never go back, you know, which for me honestly is like, I've checked it off my list. I don't have interest to go back to Curacao now, but I can say I was open and I tried it out and I went and I saw it for myself. And now I have, you know, my own reasons, and at least I'm qualified to decide for myself instead of saying, no, that country is so bad. Have you been there? No, I just saw something in the news. You know, it's really about, I guess, like being open and then having no expectations. Because in the end of the day, you're, whether it is positively or negatively, you'll always be surprised by what you see. You know,
Yes, I agree.
it's
I
so
completely agree.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And from your experiences, okay, in what ways do you think your experiences of living in a foreign country have helped you to develop personally in terms of identity, values, and beliefs? Yeah, identities, values, and beliefs.
Nice. I really like this question for a couple of reasons. One is it literally is part of a lot of what I do, and I think that a lot of people kind of underestimate the power of traveling. Right. Um, Throughout the years, I've changed my way of traveling. There's something I call travel evolution, and so you know you can start off maybe as a tourist, then you transition a little bit like a backpacker, or maybe you live in a different country for a longer time. You're an expat, you know, maybe you become a remote worker, and so it's like this evolution where you're trying out different ways of traveling. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I think in every stage of the way I've had a different identity, I've had different values, and I've also had different beliefs. Okay, and so if you compare at this now, Eduardo when he was a backpacker, right? I have 6 months long beard, you know, carrying maybe 100 euros for the next 40 days, staying in a $3, you know, like €3 hostel, and even my mindset, let's say like identity wise, I was like, oh, I'm free, you know, I could feel free, and I was like, I love traveling and everything, but a lot of the beliefs that I was carrying in myself were quite extremist. I was thinking like, oh, money is negative, and money is keeping me away from, you know, from having these real experiences. And so I'm like, I'm gonna jump to this extreme, and I'm like, I want to be spiritual, I want to be humble, I want to be connected, and so like I don't want to use social media. And you know, it comes to the point where you're literally your beliefs at least lead you to do certain things, right? Which for me was, I traveled for more than a decade and I never really openly shared what I lived, thought, experienced, and everything, because I was thinking it's for myself, it's for myself. I don't want to brag, I don't want to brag, but I didn't understand that I could help other people. But yeah, in regards, I think to let's say identity, you know, I still feel like I'm part of the whole world, but I've evolved in a way where just the fact that I understood that it's not about really the extremes, because I see this a lot in the traveling aspect with jumping between extremes. And so let's say living in Mexico, and then like I'm gonna go live in Australia, and like I'm literally shutting down everything, like my whole life here, and then I'm going to start my whole life here, instead of saying, well, you can have certain things in Mexico, you're still somehow Mexican, right? But then the way you develop or you grow in Australia is also going to change your identity. And this is one of the really coolest things about language, you know, that you explore and you find out so many different personalities within yourself. You know, ways of speaking that I've seen videos of myself speaking Japanese or Russian. And I'm like, do I really look like that? It looks really funny. So I'm like, I didn't do. Like, you know, it really changes the way that you behave. It changes the way that you. It's just like behaviorally speaking, it's so
Yeah.
much different. But I want to leave this question with one formula that I created a long time ago, and I was like, I think this is a really cool way to see it. By the way, I hate math, but this formula seemed to be quite logical, in at least in my regard. Is like, if identity, let's say, like, who you are, is, a lot of people say like, oh, it's about like, your circumstances, and some people say no, it's about your essence, is what's inside, right? And so, I was thinking like, yeah, it could be part of those, but maybe it's also those two together, like a plus. So it's like, you are who you are, but then everything that you do and all the things you surround yourself also kind of, change your identity in some ways. And so I was like, for example, Eduardo being born in Mexico, growing up in Mexico, it would be really different if Eduardo was born in China, growing up in China, right? I'll still be Eduardo, right? So you say like, oh, essence wise, I'm still the same person. But then circumstantially, I'm really different because I'm growing up in a different scenario. And so, the formula is, for me, that I came up with, like, identity equals your core essence plus your circumstances. And so what that meant for me was like, I identify myself, or the best way that I can find my own identity is by saying, okay, in this side, this is the result, equals core essence, which never changes, plus circumstances that always change. And I was like, man, what if I change the circumstances in every single country? Wouldn't I be eventually able to see the pattern that never changes? Because I say, Eduardo in Japan is funny, Eduardo in Mexico is sad, Eduardo in, Georgia is weird, whatever it is. But you're like, but I'm still this and this and this and this and this. Like, there's certain components that even within the new circumstances, you're still being yourself. And that's when you're like, man, like, here or in China, I still feel this thing, or here or wherever you are, I still believe in this thing. And
Yes.
so I think that's, honestly, for me, it's, just, I mean, obviously it's something made up, but it's like the best way that I've helped at least myself understand how I can keep on finding my own identity. And not to mention that identity is something that keeps on changing, right? Because we have a constant change in one of the elements, and so we cannot fix identity, but we can only understand that every single day we are evolving. Our identity is changing, and that's not something to be afraid of. It's something
It's
that
a
people
nice
are afraid of.
formula. It's a nice way of seeing things. And also, I would say to it that it will be the essence, but you are unwrapping it. So it's coming and appearing regarding depending on the circumstances. But it's true that even if it's Eduardo in China or Eduardo in Japan or Eduardo in Mexico, there are core things, as you mentioned it before. So that you analyze or realize that those are the things that are remaining with you, but at the same time are evolving. So it's very nice that you came to that conclusion. It's a nice formula.
Yeah, hopefully, you and everybody watching this right now can use this formula to be able to understand it, and to understand themselves at a deeper level. Obviously, it's not like, oh, so like, what's the exact formula? Is it like a 3.2, or like, what's the actual result? Well, the X component will eventually become clearer, because right, like, what you believe in here or in China, that it doesn't change. You're like, okay, it seems like people here, are a little mean, but I'm not going to change who I am just because of somebody else, right? Like, if somebody screwed up with me, I'm not going to, like, be mean to them just because they were mean to me. And they're like, man, so that, whether it is in China or Mexico or Japan or whatever, that's part of you. I think that's the core essence that we're talking about. So
thank you so much for sharing the formula.
no worries.
So I will proceed to the next question. How has your cultural competence changed as a result of living in a foreign country? And what strategies have you used to develop your cultural competence? Which I'm kind of aware that actually that's part of your path you are sharing with people, right? But I would really appreciate if, yeah, you can let me know what are the strategies you use to develop on your cultural competence.
Okay. I guess when we talk about the cultural competences, a lot of it is, especially now when we see that it's so common to become a digital nomad, or work remotely and travel and all these things. Um, the side that everybody's looking at is how to make money online, right? How to travel the world, how to blah blah blah, so that you can travel. But it's so interesting to me that for most people, traveling is the end goal. For me personally, traveling is the beginning, because with traveling or through traveling, you're able to see so many different things, different ways of life, right? Different ways of thinking, different cultures, different languages, different everything. And so, to answer your question, I think the part of the cultural competence is more about, when you think making money online and being able to travel, is, I call it uploading yourself to the cloud, which is like learning online skills, right? But then people forget the other side, which is how do you really disconnect or download yourself so that you can truly integrate, you can truly immerse and take advantage of what the world and each country has to offer. And so originally, let's say, at least in my first experience, which was completely different from what I was doing today, or I am doing today, like, being an exchange student compared to being a university student, compared to being a tourist, compared to being a backpacker, compared to working on my business remotely while I'm in another country. Like, the mindset and everything is different, but also therefore the way you approach culture. And I think with this whole travel evolution that I mentioned earlier, you develop certain affinity to the details of each single country. And so before I was like, it's so cool. Like, let me learn 3 words of the language. Now the entire thing, I turned it into a process. And I'm like, before going to the country, I'm going to learn at least like 25 words. While I'm in the country, I'm going to approach a certain amount of people and I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to speak to this and I'm going to try to connect with the local. Like, I even created, an entire system, if you want to call it, to be able to maximize the experience culturally. And so it's like a system that then becomes part of an ability, right? Like, it becomes a skill, which will then help you, like, in every single other country that you go to. It makes the whole transition easier, And so let me, I wanted to make a drawing and everything, but I'm just going to explain it with my hands. And so, in regards to this cultural competence, I think most of the times I divide it in 3 things. It's like a triad. I call it a triangle. So it's like the mindset, it's the baseline, and then for you to, let's say, like, have the capacity to make money online and everything like that, is like you upload yourself to the cloud with skills. So it's like the mindset, the skill set, and then the third one I call it the toolset. So it's like the things you use, the resources that exist out there in the world. And so how do you change your mind? Now we're connecting the beliefs, the values, and identity, which is literally the baseline. So, like, how do you switch or change your mindset to be able to think globally and understand that living abroad has an impact. Like, it's undeniable that it has an impact in your own personal growth. But most people just stay there and they're like, like, because it's cool, it's a cool experience, and I want to grow through it, right? Instead of thinking, which is something I realized honestly a couple of years ago. Only 10 years after traveling, I still didn't understand it. But now I'm like, traveling, instead of saying, oh, it's cool to go to a country and just be a tourist and learn a little bit about the country, and then come back to your own life in your own country. It's like, how do you use travel as a way or as a means to an end? And so once you think, I want to be able to accomplish, let's say, whatever, I want to make $1 million. It's easy example. You're like, I could work really hard in Mexico to try to make $1 million, or I could maybe work with clients in the US and then work a little less and still make $1 million. So you're thinking geographically, right? And so, like, how do you adapt your ideas and your goals and everything to the things that you want to do? And so with this triad, the mindset, skill set, and the tool set that I'm talking about, this literally enhances. Once you create an entire, let's say, an entire turn, you change and you're able to tweak your mindset. You start learning new skills, which is cultural skills and competences that allow you to connect with the people, which I'm just gonna say it, language is the fastest one, because you can say, I can learn to how to persuade people to do whatever I want them to do. But if you do not speak the local language, it's going to be way harder than even if you speak a few words. Because language is not
Yes.
really about communication. Language is about connection. I've had circumstances I've been to countries where I don't really speak the whole language or like the language fluently, but just by approaching the people and saying, "Kama juba rogoraka, carga, blah blah blah," just a few words, they're like, man, like why would you want to learn my language, which is unpopular, unknown, useless, almost, said by them. You're like, man, it's such a nice language. I respect your culture, I respect your language, I respect your history, right? And so that creates a real nice connection and a bond that opens so many doors in terms of culture. And so I think obviously, maybe when we talk about specifics of it, like cultural competence would be something like, okay, being more open-minded, right? Or accepting people that are different than you, just being open to listen instead of criticizing. Like these are probably more of like character traits, that change the way you act, see, think, do, because of having that experience culturally in every single country. I think that that's cultural competences at its core, being able to evolve into that while you take in, all these new countries, all these new things for every single country. So, does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. It seems to me you have it very clear. You
Yeah.
have done a lot of, I don't know if it's personal research or in general, but yeah, it sounds very clear to me. And that
Yeah.
you have it very clear.
Yeah. Let me be honest. I spent a lot of time just traveling, but then I got to the point where I also asked myself, like, what is the whole point of this? Like, is it really just about traveling because it's cool, or traveling because you're constantly learning something new? Like, even then, I wasn't really able to connect, at least in my own brain and my mind, like, how does that make sense in the longer term? Right? And then I started asking myself these questions like, do I have to choose between traveling all my life and maybe like not having a family, or maybe not having something stable? Like, do I really have to make that kind of decision? It's just probably a lot of people would say like, man, you're really like, you're complaining or you're worrying about travel. Like, I need to work every single day and I can barely, have for the next meal. And here you are having some conversation like, oh, I'm so worried. Like, I don't know how to travel better. Like, it could sound like that if there's no context, but um, for me, honestly, the reason why I like this kind of conversation and why I came up with all these ideas and asked myself these questions and therefore found a few answers was, man, I want to have travel for, like, I want to travel for the rest of my life, but I don't want to be moving around, just thinking, oh, like
Mm-hmm.
which country should I go next? No, I was like, let me paint myself a picture and a goal, and then from there, I'm going to treat every single place and every single action and thing that I do as a way or one of the steps towards that thing. And so for me, that is the exact moment where traveling or living abroad became my personal development journey. Like, it literally became the personal development. It's not how personal development was impacted through traveling. For me, it was like traveling is the thing that allows me to have and grow, you know, personally, obviously, but also in business, in regards to the business and in regards to so many areas. Um, I'm going to share with you and everybody else the 7 areas that I use, because I literally say this is my 7 areas of life. That's how I picture it, and that's how I use it for other people. Where like, I want to live around the world and I want to like travel and get a new passport, and I want to learn a language. I'm like, okay, so everything is great, but we have to literally start from these 7 areas. Okay. And so number 1, physical. Number 2, spiritual. Number 3, emotional, social, cultural, professional, and financial. Okay. And so I share these ones in this order because I believe these ones are the best way, or let's say just the way that it has the best impact on planning your life. So if you say, I want to grow personally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, culturally, people just think about travel as a culture thing, right? Like, oh, I travel, I learn a language. That's culture. That's cultural growth. Instead of saying, man, how can I, right? Like, how can I grow and learn more about myself emotionally by traveling? How can I grow my business by traveling? How can I make more money by traveling? You know, how can I connect with more people and create a network and leverage, you know, the opportunities around there, gain an advantage in life by traveling? Right? Like now it's not only about how can I feel cool and, you know, enjoy my time for a little bit by traveling. It's like, how does traveling impact every single area of the 7 in my life? And so that's what I do. That's what I teach people as well. And I say, use these 7 areas and ask yourself, what does that mean to you if you're able to travel? And how can you find whatever it is that you're looking for in your life out there? And so now it's like
Yes.
a reverse engineering kind of thing.
Yes, it bounds, right? Not only like it's not what you are saying to me, I completely resonate with it, but also in the part that it bounces from traveling to the physical part, and the physical part it bounces to like on both ways. So yes, I actually I'm developing my life in that way where I can take steps and in the meantime travel and experience. Not traveling is not the main point, as well as you said, but how traveling will get me to the steps that I want, but also how I can live abroad. So yeah, it's a circle, I
Yeah,
would
and
say.
yeah, and I think it also really depends because you know, it's like when we think we're talking about the same thing, but maybe we're not. And so in many ways, it really comes down to define traveling to begin with, you know, because
Mhm.
people, they say like my parents, they see who I was 10 years ago and they think I'm still doing the same thing, and I'm not. I don't stay in hostels anymore. You know, I rather spend more money but have more comfort so that I can stay in my zone of genius, so I can focus, so I can deliver, so I can work, so I can grow my business, instead of saying, whatever is cheaper, I'll just like get it. I'm like, no, I'll rather pay for $100, they say, for a night instead of like $7 for a hostel, because I know how that will impact me now with who I am, with what I believe, with my identity, with my values, right? Like all these things today, which
Mhm.
are not different from the Eduardo that was backpacker 10 years ago. Um,
Mhm.
and so, you know, when you think about what does travel really mean to you, for many people, it's like, going to a really cool place for 2 weeks, staying in a 5-star hotel, having an all-inclusive package, and just relaxing, right? For other people, I always say there's two reasons for traveling. It's either leisure or growth. You know, if you're traveling and you're like, I want to know a little bit about the country, but you get a tour, and then in the end of the day, like it's going to be over. You're going to come back to your home country, and it's just a way for you to distract yourself and disconnect from your reality back home. Then that's leisure. If you're
Mm.
thinking, how can I learn about the country? Because I'm truly interested. I want to, you know, implement some of these things in my life. Like maybe I want to learn Vietnamese, you know, or I want to learn how to cook this Vietnamese food because it's so good. I want to cook it even in my own country. Like that's extracting an element from that place, bringing it to your own life, right? Adapting it to your own life. That's the growth part. And so,
Mhm.
in essence, I think like I say nowadays, I don't like traveling. I like living in different countries. I don't like traveling anymore. For me, it's really different. I at least want to stay 3, 6, 12 months in a country, because otherwise I don't really come, I don't get to see the real side of the country.
Yes.
It's like a honeymoon. You don't fall out of the honeymoon phase because you're everything is so amazing in Thailand. And then maybe 6 months later, you're like, okay, like there's some
Yes.
fucked up shit here as well, like there's some negatives also. But that's when
Yes.
you're truly, capable of making an objective decision and saying, man, this place is so nice for traveling, not for living. Like, or this place I would like to live here, but maybe not travel as much. China for me, I lived there. I don't want to ever live there again, but I want to travel, and I'm always going to keep on traveling to China. I know that, but I'm never ever going to leave there again. And so it's really different. But I think that's why we say, like, what does traveling even mean to you? It's I divided it in three things. I call it LSD, almost like a drug. But so length, speed, and distance. So it's like the travel dimensions. They say how length is like how long. Maybe it's like, is it 2 weeks or is it 2 years you go into the
Mm.
place, right? Speed is like, are you jumping around like real quick, or are you actually going to stay there and travel slower, really get to see the place, really connect with the people, with the locals, right? And distance wise is also like, maybe you're living, let's say you're living in Germany, right? And then you're like, I want to go to Poland. So it's relatively close. You can go and come back, you know? Then that means maybe you stay for a couple of days or weeks. Eventually you get back to your own base, your home base. Instead of saying, man, I live in Germany, I'm going to go to Taiwan, and it's really far away. I cannot come back in like maybe in 20 hours and sleep in my place. Like, I definitely have to find something else there. And
Mhm.
so traveling is so different to many people that, yeah, I think it's, a lot of it is about understanding what traveling means to you and how you can use traveling slash living abroad,
Mhm.
which I would define living as at least 3 months. Still 3 months, I still feel is like not enough. But the minimum would be 3 months, and then maybe I would start considering to say I'm living in a country instead of saying I'm traveling in a country. It's like,
Yes.
how deep are you? Yeah, you understand the place.
You actually, regarding the length of the time that you lived abroad, you are considered a tourist uh, before, if you don't make it up to 1 year of living abroad, you are considered a tourist by the OMS. No,
Mm.
wait. I just mix it in my head, but yes. Anyway, like
Yeah.
less than 1 year, you are considered a tourist. So
Isn't that interesting?
yes.
And you see, if you travel, let's say, visa free, even if you have a strong passport, most of the countries don't let you. They don't have stays longer than 90 days. That's the average. There's obviously countries where you can stay longer. There's the few countries that allow you to stay longer, like 120 days or a year, like Georgia. But the average is 90 days. And so what can you do in 90 days, right?
Yes.
Not a lot.
I mean, you still get to know the culture, of course, but it's not the same as if you would experience it um, with the mindset that you will be knowing the culture and not having other chance that just like learning from it, accepting it, and going with it.
Yeah. Now coming full circle, because this is the first thing that you asked and we talked about it, say, what were the expectations, and how do you manage to take advantage of traveling to a country. Again, there could be somebody who I literally met somebody. I'm actually going to speak about a specific person who I have in my mind. I'm not going to say names or anything, but I knew a he was a US person, an American living in China. The time I met him, really nice guy, by the way, but the time I met him, he had been in China for 7 years. I had been in China for 1 year, and I was translating for him in the restaurant, everywhere we were going. Like, I was like, it really is not. Now, we come to the to when we think, oh, is it quality or quantity? Bro, you can spend a lot of time in the country and still not get anything out of it if you are not receptive, right? So I think that's really the key point here, which is you could spend 2 weeks in a country and get more out of it than somebody who's been there for 7 years.
Yes.
And I'm not saying this to impress you, or anybody else who's watching, but to impress upon you the fact that the matter of the thing is not about the time that you spend in the country, but what you do with it.
Yes, that was actually something that my thesis advisor told me, and that's why in the survey I wrote 3 months in the option of the length of the stay, because he was telling me also that part that you can take so much of it if you. It depends. You can meet people like this guy that was 7 years there and didn't get himself that much into the culture, because it's very important to at least understand the basic of the language. I would say so.
Yeah, I would say so too. But you can't you can't tell people what to do, and so there's always going to be the people that don't do it. And for me, maybe in the beginning it was a little hard to say, like, man, how can you be in a country for 7 years and really not speak even the basics?
Yes.
Initially I was thinking, like, this guy is probably trying really hard not to learn it, because even if you don't want to, sometimes you learn.
Yes.
But yeah, it really is about perspective and attitude towards the country, like being open, kokoro hiraite, right? Like, open your heart and be receptive and accept the fact that there's no right or wrong. You can't come around as, I don't want to get too political and historical, but there's a book from Edward Said. He wrote a book called Orientalism, and he says how the main powers, like, let's say at the time, right, when they were conquering other countries like UK or Netherlands or the Portuguese or like many others that were in Indonesia, Japan, like, just around British India, whatever it is, like Malaysia, all these countries that eventually got, they got colonized, and they were, and the approach that they were taking was, we're coming to this banana country to help them out and put some order and some development, because they're literally like living in the jungle, almost kind of approach, where they're like, who are you to just poke your nose in some other country and say they need help when they didn't even ask for it, right? So it's kind of like you're acting like you're the superior guy. And again, it's nothing personal to any of those countries, because it's history, but it's a little bit of how it works. The world between the Eastern world and the Western world, like, oh, we're colonized, or we're coming here to help. Even today, like, anywhere there's oil, somebody's there to help. You know who it is, like, casually they want something out of it. But yeah, it's there's so much things that that you can learn, honestly, and that can have impact on your own personal development, just by not even saying yes to living abroad, for 10 years. Even if you just say maybe.
Yes.
Maybe I will just try it out for 3 months. I don't need a visa. I'll just go check out a country. I'll open myself, open my heart, open my eyes to something new. And maybe, just maybe, it has an impact in my life positively.
Yeah. And tell me something, when you have lived abroad, what are the things that, how do you maintain your balance in your life? And what are strategies you use to maintain, to achieve that balance?
Okay, so which areas would you talk about in terms of balance? I mean, because I could talk about the 7 areas, but do you have any specific area where you feel like there's a crucial need to have balance?
Yes, I think with this question, what I would like to know, it's more about the what makes you, Eduardo, feel more in peace with yourself, and regarding mental health, physical health. So it doesn't matter. Maybe you put some others, other needs first, but in general, if you develop a routine, or if you develop, what strategies do you have for keeping yourself in balance and in peace with yourself?
Okay, that's a great question. Coming off from from the fact that we've talked about the 7 areas, obviously, with that context, for me, it's really crucial to understand that I cannot deny or forget about one of these areas just because we pretend it's not there, right? Which, let's say, one of the best examples is talking about your physical aspect, like eating, sleeping, like nutrition, exercise, things like that. When it comes to traveling, obviously, there's always constant changes in your environment, which make it really hard for you to keep, a routine. Let's say, follow a routine. And so you're like, I'm waking up, in a new country. I'm so tired because I just moved, or not now. There's new noise, there's new whatever. The Wi-Fi is not working. Like, there's so many other different things around you that sometimes kind of disturb with with your own inner peace and things like that. And so, in one way, what has helped me, let's say, in terms of this traveling, living perspective, is I've slowed down so much to the point where I want to be able to be in control of my own environment. I'm saying, if I'm traveling for a week, like let's say this weekend, I'm going off to a place where Wi-Fi sucks. Like, okay, I'm gonna get the work done, and then the moment I'm there, I don't need my laptop, right? So I instead of saying like, oh, I'm gonna work from the beach, I'm like, no, I'd rather just be in the beach properly and not work there. And so finding that balance means doing the right thing at the right time. It's Imagine it's like a kid. Let's say this is an easy example of it. A kid who's just playing around during class, but then when the break comes, everybody's playing football, and now he has to catch up with the homework because he didn't, do any work during the class. So it's like he's not there 100%. He's not in the break 100%. Now you're like, there is a lack of alignment, which then creates this imbalance. And so, obviously, in every single area, there's this kind of aspect. But what I personally truly found balance in was these two extremes, where I thought it was an either or decision about, do I have to choose to travel, maybe not have money, my entire life, like maybe always be broke, uh, but feel free, but at the same time have no stability, but at the same time have no certainty, but like be happy, but or the other side, I was like, or maybe I could, be in one place, I could kind of forget about traveling, I could make some good money, I could have a nice car, I could do these cool things that everybody's doing, right? Like build a legacy, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, man, it's so conflicting to me. Honestly, every single day that I was traveling, I felt conflicted because I was like, why do I have to let go of one just for choosing the other one? And obviously that led me to say, huh, wait, I don't have to. Like, why and when and who told me that I had to choose this? Probably society overall. Like, there's no one specific person that tells you this, but it's like, yeah, like till this day, everybody's like, oh, you're always traveling, you have no stability, like no money, blah blah blah. And I'm like, you haven't seen me. You haven't seen what I've done, but I've created a way that I can merge these two things together. And so I don't want to jump anymore from being a broke, traveler or backpacker to, oh, I'm going to do all the money in the world, but now I'm going to be miserable. Like, why does it have to be these two sides, these two extremes, right? Um, so I think for me, that's the one that created the most inner peace in myself, which I was like, so nice. I can have money and I can have mobility. I can have both, and I can have stability, and at the same time, I can have freedom. It really is rewarding inside because you're like, oh, if somebody says, do you want chicken or pork? Like, why not both? Or
Yes.
maybe none, whichever it is. But it's about you taking control of your life. And I think just overall understanding this will naturally have impact in every single other area of your life. Like in relationships for me, just to connect that point, but the traveling side was like, I'm always traveling, always moving, always blah 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 blah. And I spent 3 years since the pandemic. I've spent 3 years in Mexico. Tell me if that is not an extreme. It's like from moving every single place, every single blah 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 to now I stay like in one place for 3 years. For me, it's like what to travel.
Yeah, it's
You know?
hard.
Yeah, it's an extreme. But then I'm like, how can I find balance? All right. And this is what I came up with in really, really, really short terms. I'm like, one, I don't want to be, it's almost like my list, like my non-negotiables. I was like, one, I don't want to be traveling all the time and I don't want to be carrying my suitcase. Two, I want to have a
Mhm.
place where I can truly focus and I can actually call home. Right. Three, I was like, maybe I still want to have this sense, like this sense or this opportunity of exploring new countries, right? But it doesn't mean that I have to give up on my business and blah blah blah. So I was like, so I can create certain periods in time where I'm going to do this. And so what I'm planning literally right now, what I'm working on is, and obviously there's the short term and the like really long term for this same plan. But for me, it's like I want to have 3 or 4 bases around the world to say like buy myself a house in Mexico, buy myself a house in Turkey, buy myself a house in Malaysia, and maybe one in Japan, whatever it is, like let's say 4 houses, right? And so then you're like every quarter, like every 3 months, you move from the Mexico one to the Japan one. Now it's like really warm. Oh, now it's really getting really cold. Like let me go to the next one, And so you kind of switch around, and then there's like 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, and 3 months, right? There's like the 12. And so what you could do is like, oh, maybe I can spend my time in three, and then there's 1 month left in between. I could spend that 1 month traveling, opening my eyes, opening my heart to a new place, which could maybe, just maybe, become a cool country that I like, that I want to come back to, that I want to build ties with. Like maybe start a business, open a bank account, or open, like whatever. Just start building ties with the country. And so I think for me that's the true balance. It's I'm not staying in one place forever, which people till this day do not understand. Why do you hate Mexico so much? I'm like, I don't hate Mexico so much. You just don't get my point. But I don't try to
Yeah,
be understood anymore. So
I
I'm not
get
gonna
it.
stay in one
I get
place.
your point.
Yeah, I know
I
you
get
do.
your
I know
point.
you do. Yeah.
Because I
So
actually I want to I'm on my way of achieving. I'm back in Austria because I want to achieve on a real and liable way going to Portugal, because if I would find a job and start my career in Portugal, I would start earning so little, and Portugal is not a country that will open myself doors to. But yet I want to enjoy the good weather.
mm,
But how do I do it? Then my goal would be to spend the winter in Portugal and the summer in Vienna. So something like that. It could be, I mean, in a couple of 2 years, that's my goal. But yes, and but I want to go back to again to the same question. For example, when I have been living abroad, it has been very helpful for me to have these apps. For example, I don't know what's the name in Mexico, I forgot, but it's this sports app when you can just sign per month and go to many fitness studios that you want, and
around
that
the
really
world.
grounds me. No, I mean in the city,
Oh, okay. Sports
but
City maybe it was.
that really grounds me and makes me feel part of the city and makes me feel that I have a life. So you explain it in a bigger scale, but I would like to know, when you move abroad, if you have a specific strategy of saying, okay, I will stick to my routine. For example, I have been moving from, I have been having, I don't know, like 6 different houses this year, and I have tried to stick to drinking my evening tea and going to sleep, but before sleeping, reading a book. So those kind of things keep me grounded. So do you have some strategies that are more, I don't know, like on a daily day basis from the last countries you have been living abroad?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, maybe meditation is not for everybody, but either way, I think all of the strategies, let's say the things that I'm about to share with you, um, they apply to me, right? Because of my own plan and everything. And so just to put that out there, obviously it doesn't mean that you have to do the exact same thing. Uh, so if you understand what you want and what you like and everything, you can kind of use certain things that are similar to be able to, remain or keep this balance in your life in every single country. So for me, obviously, is feeding, and I'm going to almost use it so that I'm going to use the 7 areas. That's in my mind. I'm thinking physically what I'm doing physically is like I don't like going to gyms personally, but what I do is I'm like anywhere I go I can walk. Anywhere I go I could do certain things like maybe hit like high intensity interval training, which is like I can literally like jump in my house, you know. So it's like this kind of things where I need only myself, and maybe my willpower to do it. But I don't need to find a new membership or something like that. At least for this aspect, that's how it works right now. Um, let's say reading, I always try to feed my brain in the morning so that I can, stay focused and actually put something inside, like something new, being constant learning. The other thing is I literally turn my phone off, like I put it on airplane mode until it's 9 a.m. So that means I wake up, I have my routine, I meditate, I read, I take a shower, I do some thinking, visualization. I'm like, what do I want my day to be like? And only then I'm like, off, airplane mode off. And then I'm like, blah, 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 I get bombarded with all these messages. And I'm like, okay, like maybe I'll take 5 to 10 minutes to reply to the messages and then put it in silent, do not disturb. I put it aside and then I can start working. So what I'm trying to do is in that regard is kind of like uh bulking stuff or like trying to batch the activity into one chunk of time instead of saying I'm going to check my email or my messages every 13 minutes. So I'm like, no, I'm going to close it down and I'm going to put it aside, and then when I'm doing this I'm going to do this thing, and when I do that I'm going to do that thing. And so for example, in terms of work, I do a lot of the Mondays is for me is like my content creation day. So like I block it out. So from 9 to 12, I'm batch shooting content. I'm like writing some scripts, writing some ideas, shooting some videos. Like even if it's 3 or 4 videos in one day, I'm like sometimes I'm like, man, because honestly, this is the funny part. I have 4 t-shirts that look the exact same, like 4 greens, 4 grays, 4 blues, 4. Sometimes I'm like, meh, I'll just keep the same t-shirt and I'll keep on shooting videos. Sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna change colors so it looks a little different. And you could feel like it's another day, but it's the exact same day. So I'm like trying to batch the stuff into periods. And so that has allowed me to use my day more effectively. Right now, if you're traveling, let's say someone who's living abroad and traveling, for me, how it worked just in Curacao the last week that I was there, I was like, I'm gonna wake up in the morning, do my routine, and then I work. And then by 12, 1, I'm doing intermittent fasting. So by 12, I have my breakfast. 1, 2, I still keep on working. And then maybe by 3, I'm like, I'm done. Boom. But I try to, put all of this chunk of work into half a day. And I'm like, okay, now I'm only here for a week. So the other half a day, I'm going to spend it and go out and walk and meet and learn Papiamento, the language, and, meet some locals and stuff. And so, it's like, how do you set these things into the right time of the day so that you can maximize it? Now, let's say talking about, so spiritual would be the meditating side, obviously. Let's say mental, physical is like the reading, the affirmations. I also use, like I create some affirmations for myself, and I do like gratitude also. I try to find 2 or 3 things that I'm grateful for in that morning. Like whatever comes in my head, I'm like, I'm grateful for waking up today and still being alive. Um, So from there also, let's say socially, I try to. It's really hard for me, honestly, nowadays, but try to speak, just like connect with everybody around the world is really hard. So what I try to do is maybe send a message every now and then to the people that are in another country who are my friends. And I'm like, hey, you want to just want to check on you, see how you are, how you're doing. Hope everything is fine. I thought about you. I came across this thing, and I just thought I'd share it with you. So it's kind of like a little bit of like this nurturing aspect of the relationship of all the friendships that I have, because I'm really lucky to have a lot of friends in a lot of countries. And so, it's something that I also want to be able to cherish and nurture properly. And so I also have to spend some time doing that. And maybe I don't do it every week, maybe every 15 days or every month, depending on who I'm talking to. But sometimes I'm like, man, we should literally just Skype. So I just also add my like Skyping sessions on Sundays. And I'm like, I spend the whole morning, like 1 hour speaking with one friend from Japan, the other hour speaking with another friend from Pakistan. Like I do that.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah. So socially, that's one of the things that I do that allows me to stay connected with myself and keep myself grounded and thinking like, man, this is my life. Like this is truly my life. Which is something I denied for a long time when I was in Mexico. I was like, I'm in Mexico now. I have to pretend that Pakistan is not part of my life, or that I don't have friends abroad, or like I don't listen to this music, for example. Because everybody, at least in Mexico, all my friends, they're like, man, like change your shitty music. Like, what is that thing? And I'm like, bro, it's like a really cool Russian rap. And they're like, no, change it, man. Like we want to listen to reggaeton and Bad Bunny. And I'm like, okay, like, all right, you play your music. Um, Yeah, but in regards to that, like let's say for professional side, the chunks and the batching, the content, obviously I try to have like calls in the mornings, at least right now because of the time zone. I have calls in the morning with everybody who's a client for me in the US and stuff. Like I work mostly with people in the US. But for example, soon enough I'll be in Europe, which means 9 a.m., let's say, in Pacific time or New York or whatever, is going to be like 3 p.m. in Italy, let's say, right? And so for me, it's like, now I have to switch it around and say, I'll have an entire morning, maybe exploring the place or learning about the culture, learning the language, practicing these things. Then the other half, getting the work done. So
Great.
really about,
That sounds like a
yeah,
very good balance.
yeah, yeah. I think it really helps because you don't deny either thing that you want to do. And so yeah, funnily enough, it worked the exact same way in the uni. When I was making my decision, like, do I want to? Honestly, I was even like doubting, like, should I study? I didn't even want to study in university, and I was like, okay, like if I do, then I definitely need to have this balance, which means I can be studying, but at the same time, I want to be in a country where I don't know the language of, that I can go out and explore and meet people and learn the language and the culture. And that is what will allow me to propel forward and move forward so that I'm not denying myself the cultural side just because of work or just because of studies, right? So it really is about merging, trying to find the ways to merge the things together and finding the balance of using the best of any world that you feel is your both worlds. Like if you feel whatever right side, left side, grab the best of this, grab the best of that, and then merge them together. I think that's the best way to find the balance.
And how has living abroad have affected your relationship with family and friends from your home country?
Uh, all right, I'll keep it simple. The more I became myself, the more I embraced the cultures, the more I understood about the world, the more I believed in globalization and traveling as a means to expanding and to becoming the greatest version of myself. The more that I felt drawn away, pulled away from my family, and so in some ways, it's it is definitely a difficult topic for me. Like it's emotionally really painful to to feel like the more I do me, the less I can be me with my own family.
Yeah.
And so, because yeah, you just develop different ideas and beliefs, and it, it pulls you away from having common ground. Like, what people believe is not what you believe anymore. And you come back home and you're like, I'm different. They say you're different, and you're like, yes, I am. Of course, I am. Like, I cannot be the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so honestly, it is a it is something that I know that a lot of people struggle with, and a lot of people maybe feel scared about, which does not allow them to take the leap, right? Because they say, "Man, I don't want to leave my parents behind. I don't want to leave somebody else behind." I personally, every time I left, till let's say from 2010 to 2016 summer, July 5th actually is the day that my grandfather passed away. But before that, every time I left Mexico, I was like, it might be the last time I see him. Man, like this might be the last time I see. And I always had this knot in my throat, and I was so scared about the fact that people are not going to be around forever. And sooner or later, it happened, and I was like, it's painful. I couldn't be there with him when he passed away. I couldn't say goodbye in that regard, like physically. But like honestly, could I have just waited to live my life, like pause my life, pause my ideas, my mission, my goals, just out of fear? Like obviously not, And so I think that's if there's somebody that needs to hear this, it's probably the fact that as hard as it sounds, people are not going to change their life for you. You have to live your own life. You have to make sure you take ownership of what you want to do in life and put yourself first. Because everything else, Eve, honestly, like I guess you can't say that maybe there is sadly parents that don't love you, but generally speaking, I think parents always love you. They want the best for you, but they don't know best or better than because it's your own life. And so, um, yeah, I just wanted to say that because I've met so many people that feel restrained and do not take the chance to live abroad just because of the fact that they don't want to stay
Change.
away. Yeah, they don't want to leave or feel like they're leaving their family behind. And obviously, there's levels to emotional connections. For me, it was a blessing or a curse disguised in a blessing, which I was like, man, I wish I had a deeper relationship with my parents. But if I did, maybe I wouldn't have, the I wouldn't be brave enough to do what I do. And so literally because of the fact that I'm more independent emotionally, I don't feel guilt every time that I leave Mexico. Again, if I was emotionally connected at such deeper level, maybe I wouldn't be able to do this, right?
Yeah.
So I understand all scenarios. There's probably people that are too entangled or too dependent, not in a negative way, but they're just too dependent of the relationships, and it does not allow them to just try it out and fly overseas.
I know that you have to leave soon. I don't know if we could do one more question
For
or
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay, I will leave it up to you because there are so many questions, but I will. Okay, looking back, what advice would you give to someone who is about to embark on a similar journey and may face similar challenges?
Looking back, I would tell them a few things, and I would give them the tools that I created for myself that nobody ever gave to me, that I thought I wanted or I could have had. I would have made my life so much easier. And so the first thing is I want you to understand that traveling changes who you are. It will change who you are, and you have to embrace that change as you go. And not because of the fact that something worked yesterday, it means that you have to keep on doing the same thing. And what I mean by that is, for people that say that want to travel with not as much money, I would totally support if somebody said, "Man, I only have $100 and I want to go to Europe." I'd be like, "Okay, it's a little tight, but you can manage," because I've managed myself. I know it's possible. So I would say take the leap, try to do it. Obviously, if you have more money and you're either studying there or maybe going to work to a different country, I would say take the leap, try it out, open your heart, kokoro hiraite, and go with the flow. Understand, going with the flow, I mean, understand the fact that you are evolving, and that if you deny yourself your own growth, then you're going to waste a lot of beautiful opportunities that present to you in the country, and that you should literally learn to live the moment without neglecting yourself. Because I think that's at the deepest level possible. We are human beings, spiritually speaking, but I feel we're more like spirits in a human body. And so in the end of the day, like, we're all gonna die. It sounds out or whatever, but we're all going to die. And so the worst thing that you could do to yourself is not stay true to your own beliefs, to your own identity, to your own values, and especially to your own mission in life. So whatever it is you want to do, if traveling is, the way, and you feel like traveling could help you move towards who you want to become and what you want to leave in this place as a legacy, then by all means, you have one person that already believes in you. That's it.
Thank you so much. Seriously, I think you have a lot of potential, and that you are a very inspiring person, and that you are on the right path. And I'm glad that you are staying true to yourself, and that you are enjoying life at its fullest, and not just staying where you were born and that's it. But you are a seeker, and yeah, I mean, I really resonate a lot with what you say and your mindset. And I'm sure, I mean, we both lived abroad since we were very young, and not to just any country. You were in Japan, I was in the Philippines, and it's insane that since such a short age we were already living abroad. So I'm sure we both will find our own ways to, as you say, emerge all, yeah, I mean, yeah, emerge all and live all the experiences and keep growing and having more positive impact in our own personal development.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see your growth also, and to see, what you're doing and who you're becoming, and especially, because I've known you for a long time, and so just seeing that evolution, and also coming full circle and saying, "Ha ha ha!" Like, remember the time that we met in Japan? It's just, it's so amazing to me to see how people take directions in life, and everybody's trying to find their own answers.
Yeah.
And funny enough, you were like, "Oh, look at my answer, like it's same as your answer," but it's not like we're sharing it under the table. Like, it's just live and experiences presenting themselves to each one of us, and then each one comes with their own conclusions, even with their own identity, with their own values, with their own circumstances and beliefs. And just the fact that there's a common ground to it, I think also inspires, it could potentially inspire other people to understand that, you know, traveling is not the end goal, but is literally just the beginning. So I would love to leave you and leave everybody else with one phrase, with my favorite quote from Rumi, Mevlana Rumi, poet from Iran from a long time ago, more than 800 years old. And he said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop."